we'll move on to the lesson. We're talking about our progression through the uh, various initiations or stages until we reach liberation. We're going to be focusing on a lot on illusion, which is associated with the third. The first one is related to getting control over the physical world. This is called Maya. And Maya is often associated with illusion, but it's a kind of the deepest stage of illusion where our focus is on the material world and its attractiveness. And this the basic poles of this Maya is through the sexual attraction and the pull of the appetites. These two things are very powerful attractions for us. We we're very attracted to good food and things that please the bring physical pleasure, and that would also include sex. And getting control of these and sending them on the harmless path is the first big hurdle that people have to overcome. And what's interesting is even a lot of great souls have been caught with this first hurdle. People, I think, maybe even fairly high initiates from a past life, they get trapped in this one. Like John F. Kennedy, I think, was a very advanced soul, yet he got trapped in that and was addicted to the
Sex.
sexual pleasures. He was not faithful to his wife, and but I think a lot of that come from the teachings of his father. His father basically told him that women are there to be used. And I think his father implanted some illusionary ideas in his mind that kind of backfired on him. But there's quite a few fairly people that are fairly advanced. They get trapped in that being controlled by sex, drugs, and rock and roll, so to speak, and the physical pleasures and overeating or eating the wrong stuff. Uh, they they don't assume that control. Now, when a person reincarnates and comes back, he has to go through the progression of his past, and it's usually not as difficult. Like if he overcame the energies and attractions of the bodily pleasures in a past life, he would have an easier time overcoming it in the current life. But sometimes they come back, that attraction is so strong that sometimes they backslide for a life or two, and then they have to catch up again. And I think that might have been the case with Kennedy and sex. I think he backslid there a bit, but I think he was actually a very advanced soul altogether. But this pull of the appetites of the physical body are very powerful, and they trap a lot of souls, and it's very difficult for people to get control of them. Now, some of the people that claim to be in control have never really received a lot of good, strong temptation. I think back to the story of Joseph, who was sold into Egypt. he he had pretty much the ultimate temptation. The Pharaoh's wife wanted him to make love to her, and he kept refusing. And she basically tried to rape him, and he fled from her. And then she told her husband that Joseph had tried to rape her. And so they threw him in jail, and he was in jail for 7 years. And so he had the ultimate temptation there, pretty much, of the Pharaoh's wife. Not the Pharaoh's wife, but a man of substantial wealth and influence. His wife was the one that had Joseph thrown in jail, and then he was taken out by the Pharaoh when the Pharaoh learned that he was able to interpret dreams. So, but anyway, he had kind of the ultimate temptation. Beautiful woman, wasn't going to say anything to anybody, and he went through tremendous risk to resist that temptation. But a lot of people that live to be have fairly virtuous lives haven't really had much temptation. You know, if you're not really an attractive person, you don't get much temptation in the sexual area. But you know, you find that oftentimes people that are really have a lot of affairs are very attractive people, and the attractive people have a lot more temptation, whereas the people that are not so attractive, they don't get that much temptation, but they get temptation in other ways. If a person's frustrated sexually, sometimes they resort to food and overeat and eat the wrong stuff, eat a bunch of junk food, and or get addicted to drugs or alcohol or whatever. So there's all kinds of things out there. If you're not tempted in one area, you can be tempted in another. But the basic purpose of the religions of the planet is to help us in the first initiation. It's kind of like the first grade. Okay, they all guide us to obey certain commandments, that we don't have affairs, we don't cheat on our spouse, we don't get drunk every night, and different things like this. So anyway, once that is passed, then the emotional world is where the tremendous difficulty lies, and getting that under control is very difficult. And illusion enters in a lot here, and glamour. Glamour is the main ingredient in the emotional world, but what we're going to be focusing on as we progress here is illusion, because illusion is very subtle, and many of the people that are interested in the esoteric thought are either first or second degree initiates, and illusion is the big problem for them, because illusion has to be at least partially mastered to pass the third initiation. And so, but before illusion is approached, where it's even understood, we have to go through mastering glamours. Can someone here tell me what a glamour is, as taught by the Bailey writings? Ed, what's a glamour?
Well, I think a personal ego is very much of a glamour.
Yeah. Okay. Can you give me an example of what a glamour would be?
Well, a man who thinks that he knows everything and everything revolves around him.
Yeah. Yeah. The glamours are associated with the ego, then, aren't they? That
Right.
glamour is there's all kinds of subtle glamours, and a glamour is a kind of a thought form in circulation around the individual that makes him think that he's more important than he is on a personality level. Let's pick on somebody else here. Asaf, can you give me another example of a glamour?
Um, a person who thinks he is lower than he really is. He thinks lower about himself, low self-esteem.
False pride.
Yeah, that can even be a glamour. You can have a glamour in a negative sense, but it's still related to the ego. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that will say, well, I'm not very good at this, but on the other hand, internally, that's really not what they're thinking. They're just wanting people to tell them they are good. No, you are good at this, you know. You're better than you think you are. But they have a glamour about that they're wanting their ego stroked. So they have this false humility, and DK tells us that false humility is actually a glamour,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting. But
I used to be,
yeah,
I used to be conceited, but now I'm perfect.
yeah. Well, good for you, Ed.
Yeah, once I thought I was wrong, but I was wrong. Well, egos have to do with better than, less than, that separate you from other people. Like my house is better than yours, so I'm better than you. I have a better car than you. It has to do also with the material world, but it's the way your emotions respond to the material world that creates the glamour.
Yeah.
My God's stronger than your God, for example, which borders on illusion, but it's also a glamour. You know, I'm better than you.
So we have these three aspects. We have Maya, glamour, and illusion. But what's interesting about illusion is illusion encompasses all three. Um, the the greatest illusion are those that are dealing with the, the passions of the body and seeking to control them, because they're under the illusion that this is an important thing in life, is to keep these things satisfied. That's where the most, not that it's not important to satisfy appetites to a degree, but that is where it's at, you know, because for a lot of people, satisfying the pleasures of the body is the most important thing in life, the most motivating thing in life. And that's also associated with material wealth. They want to not only be able to have sex with whoever they want to be able to eat and drink whatever they want, whenever they want, and they want to be able to buy anything they want. And this is associated with all with Maya, and it's also associated with illusion. In other words, they're under the direction they're taking in life is the wrong direction, and that wrong direction is caused by an illusion in their thinking. They're thinking incorrectly, and this leads them to embrace desires that take them in the material direction rather than the spirit. So anything that takes you to more deeply into matter is associated with illusion, and anything that takes you towards spirit dissipates illusion. And so you can, once you overcome the material desires to satisfy yourself, then we get into the astral, where glamour is a problem, the biggest, probably the most common glamour is a feeling of self-importance because of a feeling of superiority of some type. This is probably the most common glamour that's out there. And we've all met people that we think project that, I'm sure. How about you, Asaf? Have you met people that have a strong feeling of self-importance about them that just kind of turn you off?
Yeah, many. And well, I think about myself like that sometimes, so I'm aware of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, that you got to watch yourself in that area too. Even if you're a humble person like yourself, there may be some areas where you have that inflated ego about yourself. You have to, and we have to check. All of us have to check that on a regular basis. But
yeah,
this is what the glamour does. It inflates the ego, gives a person a feeling of self-importance. And there's so many different avenues where you can have self-importance inflated. Like you can acknowledge that maybe I'm not a good musician or whatever, but boy, I really got it down in this other area. You know, I'm really a wise guy. I got a lot more common sense than my next door neighbor, and so I'm pretty sharp there. And so now it's true, you may have some pretty good common sense, but it's the attitude of the feeling of being superior. And what do you think we can do to negate that feeling of superiority that plagues people at this part of the path?
I think there's two things that may help. I mean, I'm not a master at this in any shape or form, but for me, it's been saying that anything that I have is I don't own it. I just manage it. So that I've been convincing myself for a very long time that everything that I have, I'm just managing it, that everything is owned by God in the end. And that helps me. And number two is that I feel like if I do become more successful at a certain time, I maybe don't tend to pray as much, or I tend to sort of lose my spiritual touch. And so that kind of I have this sort of app that I kind of, it's not a to-do list, but it's a way that I go, okay, like am I putting that all my rewards or benefits or blessings come from God? Well, then I should be praying then, actually. If I do mean it. If I'm not praying, then it means that it's all me and that all the power comes from me. So I think just if I have a easier tendency to do spiritual things, I feel like I'm on the right track. If I have a heavier sort of not disgust, but like almost like a heavier gravity to not do spiritual things, that means I'm headed in the wrong direction. So prayer for me has been a big one. If I'm off the direction, I'm not praying as much typically. So I just like to, that's my good gauge for me. And again, just sort of knowing that I don't own anything, that I'm just managing God's objects.
Okay, really good advice. I think one of the things that really kind of helps dissipate glamour is the feeling, because all of us in some areas are superior to maybe your next door neighbor in certain areas, and then your next door neighbor is superior to you in other areas. But there's none of us are equal to each other in ability. There's all kinds of differences, and these differences cause us to have glamours because we think, well, I'm a lot better. Have a lot better knowledge about football than Joe Smo over there. And so if you get together and watch football together once a week, maybe you have a glamour that you're a lot more into it than he is. So there's always areas in your life where you have a feeling like you have an edge better than your brother somewhere has. And this is where the temptation for the glamour comes in. And I think one of the ways to dissipate that is to realize that we are all on the same path. And we have a path that leads from the present back to our source, who we call God, our Father's home. Now, all of us are at different places on the path, but all of us will eventually return home. So no matter where you are on the path, the guy behind you, he will be there eventually. And the guy above you, he's been there before. So we're all on the same journey. We go from point A to point B. And in the end, there's no one more superior than the other because we all get there. We're just at different points. And kind of looking at it that way, that even if you think, well, I have a lot greater spiritual knowledge than that guy that goes to church every Sunday and just learns the same thing over and over. Well, you were there in a past life, you know, that's where you were in a past life, but now you graduated from the regular fundamentalist belief system. And but you shouldn't feel superior because of it, because you're just at a different place on the path.
Well,
And
not only that, just to add, because I was thinking exactly the same thing. But no matter where you are, there's somebody like I might have a really good business, but there are people out there that have much better businesses than I do. I may think, I'm ahead of my neighbors over here as far as I have a better house, but there are people with much better houses than I have. I might think I'm pretty smart, and until I watch somebody on Jeopardy, and they know like 10 times more stuff than I know. So it doesn't take much for you to put yourself in your place and say, I'm just a average schmuck, working my way down the path of life, and I'm
and
no better than anybody.
no matter how good you are, there's always somebody better, and unless you're Elon Musk. I don't know. He might be able to he might be able to say nobody can build rockets better than me.
He understands rocket science, yeah, doesn't
Yeah.
he?
So anyway, once the ego is under control, so that you don't have that feeling of superiority. This is what we have to get under control, and also the emotions. So you can be insulted and not get angry and not seek revenge and all these things. We could spend a lot of time on that, but we want to get into an area where a lot of the people in the esoteric studies uh, have gone a long ways in mastering these first two areas. But the one that tricks up a lot of the disciples that are really on the threshold is illusion. And illusion is very tricky, and it has to be put under control to a large degree before the third initiation can be taken. And the Tibetan says the third initiation is the first major initiation. And it's a person has to pass that before he can be trusted. Why is it that a person has to pass that and be able to see through illusion before the hierarchy feels that they can trust him to be able to work for them?
Well,
I could be wrong. Go ahead.
he begins to see more clearly. That's what the opposite of illusion is to see clearly. I see through a glass darkly, but in the end, I will see as I am seen. So
Yeah,
he begins to see himself as he really is, I think is a key.
right. And Emmanuel, you had a point?
Well, I was just going to say, is it also possible that you might fall backwards and retract and go back to having issues with the materialism and different things. I mean, that's happened before, right? So, a fallen prophet, or you go backwards.
Yeah, yeah. Once a person sees through illusion, he's a lot less likely to fall backwards, because illusion is like a trick. The temptations of Jesus in the wilderness was really an attempt by the adversary to try to trick Jesus with an illusionary ideas that would prevent him from completing his mission. And he was able to see through them all. And one by one, he dispelled the illusions that were projected toward him, so that he was able to complete his mission. And this happens to us all as we go along in life, and especially people approaching discipleship, as the people that are interested in this type of material. They have to be able to see accurately, because that's where the problem occurs. Now, DK, yeah.
Isn't it the simplest way to explain it is that as long as you haven't gone through the third initiation, you are always in the danger to turn and go to the dark path,
Right.
and join the dark brotherhood. So
Right. On a person who passes this first and second initiation, they're very sincere. By the time they pass the second, they're very sincere, and they want to do the will of God. They're believers in God and higher sources and everything, and they want to do what's right, and they want to return to the Father's home, and all these things. They're following the highest teaching they know. But if they get trapped in an illusionary thought form, they can wind up doing a lot of damage and helping out the brotherhood of darkness rather than the brotherhood of light. And this can happen. Now, even Hitler, he was a very sincere man, but he got trapped in several illusions from various teachers and books that he had come across. One of the things that we all know about was he believed that the Jews were a blight on on humanity, and they needed to be destroyed. And he thought he was doing God's will in doing that. And also, he had several other illusions. He had the illusion that what he called the leadership principle. Now, there is such a thing as a true leadership principle, but his idea of a leadership principle is there's certain people that are superior and they should lead, and the people that are not superior just should follow without question. And he bypassed the idea that, yeah, we need leadership, but the people that follow shouldn't just follow without question. They should follow because they understand. So he was under an illusion as to how leadership really worked. He thought leadership was a command and control only. Yeah.
Didn't Jehovah lead the tribe of Judah deeper into illusion by teaching them that they were the chosen seed and that they needed to inherit the land of Canaan by destroying all the other ites that were inhabiting the land because they were superior?
Well, yeah, some of the Jewish people are under the illusion that they know they were a special. It was a kind of a special endeavor by higher powers to work with the Jews, but that didn't make them superior as a people, so to speak, because you're not superior because you're born in a certain race or situation. You're superior because you have to prove yourself, you know. And so, yeah, there was illusion connected with the Jewish race. There's illusion connected with all the various races of the planet, and they all have their little illusions that they go by. But we have to be able to see through these illusions to be trusted. But how is it that we can overcome illusion? It's very difficult. It's a little bit like you know, what happens in our physical reality or what manifests is symbolic of internal things. And each of us has an actual blind spot. Has anyone here actually done the test where you see your physical blind spot?
Yeah, about right there.
Yeah, there's this test you can do, and it shows you that there's a spot that it's about the size of a quarter or so, where your eyes just see blackness, and you don't see the blind spot because your eyes just fill in for that blind spot. So you have an illusion that this blind spot does not exist, but you have an actual portion of your vision where there is a blind spot that you have no vision at all. And it's you're just under the illusion that it's not there because your mind compensates for that blind spot. And so it's very interesting. There's a little, if you Google blind spot test, you can do a test to find that blind spot on the internet. So if you haven't done that before, you might want to do that. It's quite interesting. But that what is true in physical reality is true in our thinking. In our thinking, we have blind spots where we cannot see certain illusions that we're under. It's very difficult for us to perceive them. And it takes a lot of trial and error to figure out where those blind spots are. But when we figure them out and solve the illusions, then we reach a point to where we can make some progress and go toward the third initiation. Then when we can see our personal blind spots and compensate for them in a rational way, it takes us to the point to where we can solve illusion, and then the powers that be, the real powers that be, the spiritual hierarchy, will look down and they'll see a point of light developing there on this planet, and they'll say, hey, somebody here has seen through some illusion. He might be somebody we can work with.
Yeah, well, that's the power of triad technology and the molecule is that we bounce off of each other, our energies, our ideas, our beliefs, whatever. And I may not have to point them out directly to you, but by our interaction, you'll be able to see more clearly.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go through some exercises and looking at some common illusions next week. So until then, any comments before we wrap it up?
Yeah, why haven't they approached me yet?
That's a glamour.
Yeah.
Maybe they're approaching you right now and you're not listening.
Yeah, we're right here, Asaf. We
Yeah.
see you.
I think that when we become a trusted disciple and achieve certain third degree initiation, I think that when we've been through a lot of tests, and we see that they're just tests. They're all testing our resolve.
Yeah. Well, that endurance to the end principle is really important because that takes resolve to continue when things seem discouraging at times.
Well, I think you're
Okay.
right, Ed. You may think you've overcome a problem or a glamour or an illusion, and then that test will be right in your face.
Yeah, that's happened to me. I mean, there've been times in my past where I thought I'd really accomplished some some
Yeah.
overcoming, and something hits me that was really a test.
Yeah. You find out maybe you didn't overcome as much as you thought. Huh?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I know, I think all of us has had events in life that's kind of really humbled us. And I think all potential disciples, especially if you're on the path, you've had several humbling things happen in your life.
Well, I
And
sure have.
yeah.
But I'm still smiling over all of it.
Yeah, you keep surfacing, don't you?
Well,
Okay,
I'm
my
thankful. I'm
Can't
thankful
keep a
that
good person down.
yeah,
thankful I've had plenty of guidance to lead me through the maze.
yeah, yeah. The maze is a good illustration of illusion because it's just not one illusion. You see through one illusion, then you got another one. Just like you are going through the maze, you make one correct turn, well, then you got another illusion to overcome. Okay, good discussion. We will continue this next week with some examples of illusion. And until then, may non-illusion be with you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thanks, JJ.
yeah.
Thank you.